Today we're looking at 20 real estate exam questions on environmental regulations and land use control. I hope you do well on your real estate exam. We have a lot of questions on our channel. Go visit that. Also subscribe, hit the notification button so you don't miss a video. It's free to do so. And then also, if you like this content, give it a thumbs up. It really helps us in the algorithm so others can see our videos and we can help others pass their exam. So here we go. What is the primary purpose of environmental regulations in real estate? A, to increase property taxes. B, to protect natural resources and public health. C, to encourage unrestricted development. D, to expedite the approval process for new construction. B, to protect natural resources and public health. Environmental regulations aim to safeguard natural resources such as air and water quality and protect public health from harmful pollutants and contaminants. Which federal agency is responsible for enforcing environmental regulations related to hazardous waste disposal? A, Environmental Protection Agency. B, Federal Emergency Management Agency. C, Department of Housing and Urban Development. D, Department of Transportation. A, Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA oversees regulations related to hazardous waste disposal and ensures compliance with environmental laws such as the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. What is the purpose of conducting an environmental site assessment in real estate transactions? A, to determine property boundaries. B, to assess the environmental risk associated with the property. C, to establish property taxes. D, to expedite the sale process. B, to assess the environmental risk associated with the property. An ESA is conducted to evaluate potential environmental contamination or hazards on a property, helping buyers and lenders make informed decisions about purchasing or financing real estate. Which federal law regulates the cleanup of contaminated sites and establishes liability for hazardous waste releases? A, Clean Water Act. B, Clean Air Act. C, Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation and Liability Act. D, National Environmental Policy Act. C, Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation and Liability Act. CERCLA, also known as Superfund, governs the cleanup of contaminated sites and assigns liability for hazardous waste releases, including the cost of cleanup. What is the purpose of wetland regulations in real estate development? A, to encourage the destruction of wetlands for development purposes. B, to protect wetlands from destruction and degradation. C, to expedite the permitting process for wetland development. D, to increase property values. B, to protect wetlands from destruction and degradation. Wetland regulations aim to preserve and protect wetland ecosystems from destruction, degradation, and loss due to development activities. What is the primary goal of land use controls related to floodplains? A, to encourage development in flood-prone areas. B, to prevent development in flood-prone areas, C, to mitigate the impact of flooding on existing developments, D, to expedite the approval process for construction in floodplains. B, to prevent development in flood-prone areas. Land use controls related to floodplains aim to minimize the risk of property damage and protect public safety by restricting or prohibiting development in flood-prone areas. Which of the following is an example of the land use control mechanism aimed at preserving open space and protecting natural habitats? A, eminent domain, B, conservation easement, C, variance, D, spot zoning. B, conservation easement. A conservation easement is a legal agreement that restricts development and preserves open space, natural habitats, or agricultural lands for conservation purposes. What is the purpose of zoning regulations related to historic preservation? A, to encourage the demolition of historic structures, B, to protect and preserve historic buildings and landmarks, C, to expedite the redevelopment of historic districts, D, to increase property taxes. B, to protect and preserve historic buildings and landmarks. Zoning regulations related to historic preservation aim to protect and preserve significant historic buildings, landmarks, and districts from demolition or inappropriate development. Before we move on, if you like this kind of content, give us a thumbs up. It helps us in the algorithm and gets our content out there so others can pass their exam. Also, we have many more questions on our channel, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. It really helps us out. And then hit the notification button so you don't miss a video. Which federal law requires federal agencies to consider the environmental impacts of proposed projects before making decisions? A, Clean Water Act, B, Clean Air Act, C, National Environmental Policy Act, D, Endangered Species Act. C, National Environmental Policy Act. NEPA requires federal agencies to assess the environmental impacts of their proposed projects through environmental impact statements or environmental assessments before making decisions. What is the primary purpose of a conservation subdivision design? A, to maximize the number of homes that can be built on a property. B, to preserve open space and natural features within a development. C, to expedite the approval process for new subdivisions. D, to increase property values. B, to preserve open space and natural features within a development. Conservation subdivision design aims to protect and preserve open space, natural features, and wildlife habitats within a development while accommodating residential development. What is the primary objective of brownfield redevelopment programs? A, to encourage development on environmentally sensitive lands. B, to promote the reuse and redevelopment of contaminated or abandoned properties. C, to increase property taxes in blighted urban areas. D, to expedite the approval process for new construction. B, to promote the reuse and development of contaminated or abandoned properties. Brownfield development programs aim to revitalize contaminated or abandoned properties, mitigate environmental hazards, and promote sustainable land reuse and economic development. Which of the following is an example of a land use control mechanism aimed at preserving agricultural land? A. Eminent domain. B. Conservation easement. C. Zoning ordinance. D. Historic preservation district. C. Zoning ordinance. Zoning ordinances can designate agricultural zones or districts to preserve agricultural land and limit non-agricultural uses in those areas. How does the Clean Water Act regulate land use? A. By establishing standards for air quality. B. By regulating the discharge of pollutants into navigable waters. C. By controlling noise pollution. D. By addressing hazardous waste management. B. By regulating the discharge of pollutants into navigable waters. The Clean Water Act regulates land use by controlling the discharge of pollutants into navigable waters, protecting water quality, and preserving aquatic ecosystems. What is the purpose of a buffer zone in environmental regulations? A. To encourage development in sensitive ecological areas. B. To prevent any development on a particular property. C. To provide a transitional area between incompatible land uses. D. To expedite the approval process for construction projects. C. To provide a transitional area between incompatible land uses. Buffer zones serve as transitional areas between incompatible land uses, such as residential and industrial areas, to mitigate potential conflicts and environmental impacts. How do environmental impact assessments influence land development projects? A. They encourage unrestricted development. B. They expedite the approval process for construction projects. C. They identify potential environmental impacts and mitigation measures. D. They increase property values. C. They identify potential environmental impacts and mitigation measures. Environmental impact assessments help identify potential environmental impacts of development projects and recommend mitigation measures to minimize adverse effects on natural resources and public health. What is the purpose of Endangered Species Act in relation to land use? A. To encourage the destruction of habitats of endangered species. B. To protect and preserve habitats of endangered species. C. To expedite the approval process for construction processes. D. To increase property values. B. To protect and preserve habitats of endangered species. The Endangered Species Act aims to protect and preserve habitats of endangered and threatened species by regulating activities that may harm them and their ecosystems. How do land trusts contribute to land conservation? A. By encouraging unrestricted development. B. By facilitating the donation of or sale of land for conservation purposes. C. By promoting urban sprawl. D. By increasing property taxes. B, by facilitating the donation of or sale of land for conservation purposes. Land trusts work to conserve land by facilitating the donation or sale of land for conservation purposes, protecting natural areas, wildlife habitats, and scenic landscapes. What is the purpose of a zoning overlay district related to environmental conservation? A, to encourage industrial development. B, to protect environmental sensitive areas. C, to promote urban sprawl. D, to increase property taxes. B, to protect environmentally sensitive areas. Zoning overlay districts related to environmental conservation aim to protect and preserve environmentally sensitive areas such as wetlands, wildlife habitats, or scenic landscapes from incompatible development. How do environmental regulations impact property development cost? A, they reduce development costs by promoting environmentally sustainable practices. B, they increase development costs by requiring compliance with environmental standards and mitigation measures. C, they have no impact on development cost. D, they lower property taxes. B, they increase development costs by requiring compliance with environmental standards and mitigation measures. Environmental regulations may increase development costs by requiring developers to comply with environmental standards, conduct environmental assessments, and implement mitigation measures to address potential impacts on natural resources and public health. What is the purpose of soil conservation regulations in real estate development? A, to encourage soil erosion and degradation. B, to protect soil resources from erosion and degradation. C, to expedite the approval process for construction projects. To increase property taxes. B, to protect soil resources from erosion and degradation. Soil conservation regulations aim to protect soil resources from erosion, degradation, and loss due to land development activities, promoting sustainable land use practices, and preserving soil fertility. Well, that's all the questions we have. I hope you did well. I hope you do well on your exam. Once again, please subscribe, hit the notification button so you don't miss a video. It's free to do so. Give us a thumbs up, and also visit our channel where we have many, many more questions that will help you pass your real estate exam. Y'all have a great day.